Well, greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is still doing well. I have a bonus upload that I feel is probably some of the strongest information ever shared in regards to cryptids. Before we get into it, a couple links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support the channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It doesn't cost a cent. Click the like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads I put out daily, click that bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment and share the video. Why? Well, because all of these things really do help the channel to continue to grow and go. They are 100% appreciated, and they matter. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump in to this really informative and important bonus upload, shall we? The information that I'm going to share with you guys right now, I've shared before, and it is, to me, some of the probably the most damning evidence of a possible creation where Bigfoot, Dogman, or what we call werewolves on this channel. And what a werewolf on this channel, what we refer to them as, cross between a Bigfoot, Dogman. It doesn't have hocked legs. It doesn't have a tail. It's got a shorter snout. It's got pointed ears. It's much stronger than a Dogman and much more intelligent. There's a book that is written by an amazing man of science named Nick Van Drimeny, and he wrote this book. The title does not mean, a few people commented before that Neanderthals didn't create humans, and that's not what the title means. Anyway, I have my own thoughts on why people would think that, but the book is just truly amazing. Nick Van Drimeny, Them and Us, How Neanderthal Predation Created Modern Humans. And, well, the information that you're going to hear is just amazing. So let's get into it. Every human culture believes in the existence of other beings, monstrous humanoids, sapient but inhuman. They have gone by different names: boogeyman, bugbear, cyclops, giant, jutton, ogre, ane, werewolf, yeti, and more. But they are always feared lurkers in the shadows, threats to the clan, tribe, or hearth. Dungeons and Dragons didn't create these monsters, and despite ongoing controversies, they don't represent anything modern. Humanity's legendary heroes have been fighting these monsters since time immemorial. The real question is why? Why does every civilization have similar myths? Why does every culture have legends of monstrous humanoids, and why are they always depicted as fearsome and dangerous? Because legends are real. That is at least the argument offered by Danny Van Drimeny in his book, Them and Us, How Neanderthal Predation Created Modern Human. Van Drimeny is a heterodox thinker, and his argument is well outside of the mainstream view. So before we delve into the book, let's discuss what the mainstream view is. The mainstream view, archaeologists and geneticists agree that humanity co-evolved and interbred with similar species. We nowadays have an abundant, essentially irrefutable, archaeological and genetic evidence for the existence of multiple human-like species within the Paleolithic and Neolithic eras. These include the Neanderthal, the Denisovian, the Hobbit, and several recently discovered and uncategorized species such as the Nesher Homo in Israel. New human-like species are being discovered all of the time. In fact, there is a Chinese archaeologist discovering one right now. Yet none of these archaic humans or humanoids survive today. Not a single one. All have gone extinct, vanishing save for traces of artifacts and bones within our wilderness and fragments of DNA in our genome. What happened to them all? Here disagreements begin. The possible causes of extinction identified by scientists include extinction from parasites and pathogens, extinction from interbreeding into humanity, extinction from the inability to adapt to climate change, extinction from natural catastrophe, and extinction by war with humans. The latter view, which suggests that the human race brutally extinguished another sapient primate it faced, was proposed by French paleontologist Marceline Boll way back in 1912. It was then promptly ignored for many decades, as explained in the Archaeology of Warfare and Mass Violence in Ancient Europe. Archaeologists are increasingly aware that they have underestimated the social impact of collective violence. Sites like Ribmont, Kassel, Mont Bernorio, and the Calcrees confront us in a poignant way with cruelties of war and mass violence in late prehistoric and early historic times. There is a growing critique that archaeology has marginalized violence and presented too pacified a view of the past. Actually, it wasn't just archaeology that was biased. Academics of all sorts hate violence, and for decades they systematically marginalized it from their explanations of events. Only within the last 20 years has mainstream academics and scientists accepted the ubiquity of violence in man and its closest kin. Anthropologists systematically underestimated the violence of indigenous people, perpetuating the myth of a noble savage. Now they have admitted the level of violence in prehistoric times and non-state societies was much higher than today. Biologists believe that chimpanzees were only violent because of interactions with humans. Now they have confirmed that violence is innate to chimpanzees, who routinely engage in war and murder. Historians argued that Indo-European language, culture, and bloodlines spread through migration and trade. Now they have acknowledged that it was through large-scale violent conquest. With these developments in mind, mainstream academics have finally began to accept that human beings drove the Neanderthals to extinction through war. Nicholas R. Longrich, a senior lecturer in evolutionary biology and paleontology at the University of Bath, presents an excellent summary of these current consensus. To war is human, and Neanderthals were very like us. We are remarkably similar in our skull and skeletal anatomy and share 99.7% of our DNA. Behaviorally, Neanderthals were astonishingly like us. The archaeological record confirms Neanderthals' lives were anything but peaceful. The best evidence that Neanderthals not only fought but excelled at war is that they met us and were not immediately overrun. Instead, for around 100,000 years, Neanderthals resisted modern human expansion. For thousands of years, we must have tested their fighters, and for thousands of years we kept losing. Finally, the stalemate broke, the tide shifted, and we don't know why. It's possible the invention of superior ranged weapons, bows, spear throwers, throwing clubs, let lightly built Homo sapiens harass the stocky Neanderthals from a distance, using hit-and-run tactics, or perhaps better hunting and gathering techniques let sapiens feed bigger tribes, creating numerically superior in battle. Ultimately, we won, but this wasn't because we were less inclined to fight. In the end, we were likely just become better at war than they were. The mainstream view is, then, that Neanderthals were behaviorally and physically much like humans, made war much like humans, and were eventually defeated by superior technology and numbers. much as Europeans defeated indigenous peoples throughout history by superior technology and numbers. In other words, we killed off Fred Flintstone. The heterodox view. Let us now consider Danny Van Drimeny's view. Van Drimeny agrees with the mainstream that Neanderthals were driven to eventual extinction by war with Homo sapiens. Where he parts ways with the mainstream is in his assessment of what Neanderthals were like. Van Drimeny shows that this is where things get really good, guys. Neanderthals were apex predators. Analysis of isotope of bone collagen has shown that Neanderthal diet was 97% meat. They are estimated to have eaten 4.1 pounds of fresh meat per day. Ample evidence exists to show they used stone-tipped wooden spears to hunt. From their bones littered their caves, we know Neanderthals hunted woolly mammoth, giant cave bear, woolly rhinos, bison, wolves, and even cave lions, the most dangerous and lethal animals on Earth. Neanderthals were cannibals. A number of Neanderthal sites reveal bones that have been cut and cracked open to extract marrow. While the hypothesis was initially rejected, a recent find at the El Cedron in Spain revealed numerous Neanderthal skeletons with the unmistakable marks of butchery by cannibals wielding hand axe, knives, and scrapers. Neanderthals had more robust bones. A heavy muscular than Homo sapien, they weighed 25% more. They were so heavily muscled that their skeletons had to develop extra thick bones. One of the most characteristic features of Neanderthal is the exaggerated massiveness of their trunk and limb bones. All of the preserved bones suggest a strength seldom attained by modern human. And right here, guys, is where the book and Danny Van Drimeny's research really starts to point out that Neanderthals were not what we thought they were, or what we think they were back then. They didn't look like Fred Flintstone. They were monsters. Check this out. Quoting paleoanthropologist Eric Trinkas, a healthy Neanderthal male could lift an average NFL linebacker over his head and throw him through a goalpost. Neanderthal also evolved extremely thick skulls, postcranial hyperrobustity that protected them in close-quarter confrontations with their prey. They also had kyphosis with hunched backs that gave them a distinct profile and gait. Neanderthal teeth were twice as large as human teeth, according to 2008 anthropologist research. Their mouths could open much wider than a human mouth, enabling them to take extremely large bites. Judging by the size of their jaw, they had a tremendous bite force. Neanderthals evolved in the Ice Age Europe and had specific adaptations to that climate. They had short limbs, large noses, compact torsos. Most importantly, they were covered in thick fur. Since no Neanderthal cadaver survives, this point can't be proven. But Van Drimeny points out that every primate except Homo sapien is covered with fur, and that every cold-adapted mammal during the Ice Age had thick fur, including mammals that were hairless in Africa, such as the elephant and rhinoceros. There is also no reason to believe Neanderthals were hairless except for our desire to have them look like us. The only way Neanderthals could have survived in the Ice Age without fur was if they made thick protective clothes. Archaeologist Mark White points out, Neanderthal clothing would have needed to have been more than a ragged loincloth of popular depiction. Some form of tailoring would have been required, but Neanderthal sites have yielded no evidence of needlecraft technology. They were not making clothes because they had fur. Neanderthal skulls had extremely large eye sockets, suggesting very large eyes. That in turn suggests that Neanderthals were nocturnal. However, the large eyes pose a problem, as Ice Age Europe would have presented Neanderthals with blinding sunlight reflecting off the snow. Vendramini suggests that the Neanderthals had vertically aligned slit pupils, which enabled them to use the full diameter of the lens in low light, while shutting out bright light by day. Nocturnal primates, such as the rhesus monkey and the owl monkey, have large eyes with vertically aligned slit pupils. Vendramini suggests Neanderthals also had a tapetum lucidum like a cat that made their eyes shine or glow in the dark, and a dark sclerilla like other primates. Neanderthals had distinct facial prognathism that featured large, broad noses. Vendramini argues that this suggests a Neanderthal snout with a dog-like nose designed for scent hunting. This was useful during nocturnal raids. Neanderthals did not speak human language. He quotes a September 2008 talk presented to the American Association for Physical Anthropologists. Their large nasal cavity would have decreased the intelligibility of vowel-like sounds. With the combination of a long face, short neck, unequally proportioned vocal tract, and large nose made it highly unlikely that Neanderthals would have been unable to produce quantal speech. Neanderthal tongues were also not shaped to speak clearly. Overall, the evidence suggests a creature that spoke with a deep timbre with lots of guttural sounds. The Neanderthal that Vendramini describes is thus a terrifying creature. Listen to this. A hunched cannibalistic predator with large, shining eyes, an animalistic snout covered by thick fur, massive muscles, built for close combat, hunting by night, with a brutish and guttural voice, and a large mouth with huge sharp teeth and powerful jaws. It did not look like Fred Flintstone. That, my friends, is a werewolf, bugbear, ogre, whatever it is. It's been appearing in our myths and legends for thousands of years. It's the great enemy. According to them and us, Neanderthal and human were predator-prey, and we were the prey. The Neanderthals came upon helpless humans by night, slew our men, carried off our women, having their way with them. How do you think the Neanderthal DNA got into our genome? And they kept doing it generation after generation. Not only were they stronger, faster, and tougher than Homo sapiens, the Neanderthals were just as smart and just as well armed. Under assault by these flesh-eating monsters, the human race almost went extinct. Only by becoming an apex predator ourselves did we survive. We became the greatest killers the world has ever known, because if we hadn't, we would have died out. Is Vendramini's theory correct? He cites a number of anomalies in the genetic makeup and fossil record of human beings as evidence. Let's start with the genetic makeup. The most remarkable thing about the human genome is that it's not very diverse. According to the geneticist Paxil Gagnou, humans have by far the least amount of genetic variation of any primate. We actually found that one single group of 55 chimpanzees in West Africa has twice the genetic variability of all humans, he reports. Another scientist, Bernard Wood, says the amount of genetic variation that has accumulated in humans is just nowhere capable with the age of our species. To explain it, we must have come within a cigarette paper thickness of becoming extinct, he says. Dr. David Rick of Harvard Medical School calculated that the population of humans dropped to as few as 50 individuals. Something terrible happened to the human race. Now, really quick, remember when I talked about the crawlers and I was talking about MVP? That would be, how do we sustain a population of humans and get them going? Well, 50 individuals is what held the human race to what it is now. I mean, how many billions it is now. So that right there kind of makes my theory on the crawler a little more solid as well. So when did this population bottleneck occur? A number of teams have analyzed mutation rates to find out. the mutation rate in our Y chromosome suggests the bottleneck occurred 37 to 49,000 years ago. The mutation rate of a single nucleoid polymorphosis suggests 48,000 years. Dr. Reich's study claims 27 to 53,000 years. Now let's turn to the fossils, specifically the collection known as the Quasaf skull fossil found in present-day Israel. The Quasaf skull represent among the earliest known population of Homo sapien. The fossils first appeared in the Levant region around 125,000 years ago. After tens of thousands of years occupying the Levant, the Quasaf skull began to disappear from fossil records around 80,000 years. For the next 30,000 years, it is from 80 to 50,000 years. The fossils in the Levantine region are mostly Neanderthal. After all, the Neanderthal fossils began to disappear from the Levant and Homo sapien fossils began to reappear. The apparent timeline of Neanderthal invasion matches the apparent timeline of our genetic bottleneck. Neanderthals invaded the Levant around 80,000 years ago, proceeded to drive the human race to the brink of doom. The Neanderthal is now gone, but we have endured. While we live, he does as well, for we still carry fragments of his DNA, and perhaps we carry the memory of our species, the great foes of our myth, our legends, or our Jungian collective unconsciousness. As Van Drimeny writes, if early Greek, Roman, Norse, and Chinese mythologies are anything to go by, the legends spun by early humans center around a heroic human, almost always a man, who is pitted against an ugly, evil, cruel monster with superhuman strength. This universal mythic monster is usually male, wild, hairy, dangerous, and uncouth. Often it is half man, half animal, and tends to live in dank forests or dark caves, or emerge from the underworld under the cover of darkness. The monster is frequently a fiend who kidnaps and ravishes innocent maidens and fair princesses, whom he drags back to his shadowy lair. It commonly feeds on human flesh, devours children, and stalks by night. So I am not saying that Van Drimeny is right in any way, shape, or form. Do I agree with a lot of his theories in this, in his findings? Yes, I do. I do. It makes a lot of sense if you really think about it. For those who believe that evolution is a made-up term, this doesn't mean anything to them. But to people who believe in science and reality, the evolution of humans defeating a monster that existed hundreds and hundreds of thousands of years ago is very true. I mean, it's we have certain things that are programmed into our brains. Why are children afraid of the dark when they've seen no monster? You know, you get a little kid who has never seen a horror movie, never, yet he is afraid of the dark. Well, it's ingrained in our psyche that we had been hunted by monsters at night. What were those monsters? Those monsters, once again, and as Van Drimeny describes these monsters that are in our head, in our psyche, from the time we're born, are described as this: a hunched cannibalistic predator with large shining eyes, an animalistic snout covered by thick fur, massive muscles, and built for close combat, hunting by night with a brutish and guttural voice, a huge mouth with huge and sharp teeth and powerful jaws. And that is the creature or monster that is ingrained into our brain from day one as a child. How interesting is that? And there you have it, folks. Once again, it is information shared by a scientific thinker, and he thinks out of the box, which is awesome, because when dealing with cryptozoology, you really have to think out of the box. Paranormal, cryptozoology, everything. I'm not necessarily saying that his theories are true. To me, a lot of it makes sense. Some of it doesn't. I do encourage you all to get the book. I know a lot of people have. Once again, Nick Van Drimeny, Them and Us, How Neanderthal Predation Created Modern Humans. Just an amazing book. Lots of information. And, you know, you really learn a heck of a lot more about cryptozoology and what is going on than just constantly watching video after video. The research is what is evidence, you know. Yeah, listening to, you know, a great encounter is fun, but reading about things that no one's talking about, you know, I'm talking about it, but no other people are talking about Nick Van Drimeny in this book. And I think if more people did, more people would be inclined to share their theories. So I hope you enjoyed this as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. I'd like to thank you all for supporting the channel. It is your support, after all, that keeps this channel growing and going, and what gives people like us a place to share our experiences and theories judgment-free, just simply treated with the respect we all deserve. Thank you. Please stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, and friends. These creatures are real. They are out there, and they are dangerous. Share this information with those you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. And until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for the truth, and God bless.